Let's now write out the logic to make a for loop count from 5 down to 0. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do int counter is equal to 5. This is the number we're going to want to start at. And we're going to make it go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So to do this, let's use a for loop. Inside of here, let's define counter is equal to 5. Let's do while counter is greater than or equal to 0. And then let's do counter minus minus, and this will subtract 1 from counter each time the loop runs. So inside of here, let's write printf, and let's write counter %d, and then let's put counter to print out. And at the end, let's write a new line so there's a nice output. So let's do control F5. And we can see it's going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So I want you to notice this. Our condition is slightly different from what we had before. Before we were saying while our for loop variable, which was x before, while x was less than a certain number. Now when we're going the opposite direction, which would be high to low, so our countdown, we're going to want to say while our for loop variable, which is counter, while that is more than or equal to 0. I'm doing more or equal to just because I wanted 0 to be printed out. If I removed the equal sign and just did while it's greater than 0 versus greater than or equal to 0, you would see that only 1 would be printed out, not 0. So if you run it again, 0 is missing. If you wanted to keep it this way, you could do -1 and then control F5, and then you would technically have 0, but it's just cleaner to put if it's less than or equal to 0, and then it'll give you the output that you would want, which would be 0. Usually, in most scenarios, you would want this, because again, the most practical example of this would be you going through an array backwards, and you would want to get your first index, which would be 0. But again, we'll get into that later on in the course.